Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of Gathering Genie. I am Mana. I love holding spaces for conversations that matter. And Gathering Genie is sort of an attempt to capture stories of magical gatherings in personal, community, and professional spaces. And I'm super excited to have Sanjeev with us today here. Hello, Sanjeev. So Sanjeev is a dear friend, mentor, co-conspirator in a lot of the space holding that I do. And we've been working together for the last almost 10 years at Bullseye. And so welcome Sanjeev, and it's so exciting to have this episode.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I haven't felt so nervous about a meeting before this one. I don't know why.
But you're going to talk about today one of the programs that's closest to your heart. So I'm very excited you chose that. So yeah, maybe before we get into the questions and conversation, I'm going to ring the bells so we can arrive together in the space, and whoever is watching also can do the same. And just maybe get in touch with your intention of listening to this conversation. So Sanjeev, give us some context about the kind of gathering you've chosen to talk about today.
This is a self-discovery, highly reflective program that I've been running for 8, 9 years now. And it's where individuals come. It's an open program. And they go through this whole process. It's offsite. It's usually in a place that I select, which has great energy and very low network. So no connectivity.
Okay, don't give us the
And,
ingredients of it yet. That's for the next one. Yeah.
and people come there and they go through this process and they go back with some answers about purpose and what to do with their lives and some answers, whatever they were seeking. That's the program. I call it Reflections. It is very dear to me. For me, it embodies all of the work that I do. I mean, we will parcel it and put it together into that program.
Yeah. Great. So we're going to begin with our set of reflective questions. So I'm going to show our question one by one. So our first question is, as you were looking at designing and you've done it for a few years, so I'm sure it has also gone through its own process of evolution. And when you looked at these sort of personal self-discovery programs, right? So what were you noticing about what was usually happening there?
There are different kinds of programs that happen. I mean, there is the one sort which is very famous. I don't want to take names, but there is a program which is global, which is very big, hugely successful, uh, where they have mass gatherings.
Mm-hmm.
So people join in hordes.
Mm.
And they do that, and it has often seen they come back almost with some religious fervor for some time, and then it kind of dissipates.
Mm.
Uh, in particularly in people who are in some leadership capacity in organizations. Well, an individual who's not in that capacity, many of them have found. So that's one kind of thing. Then there are things around yoga and meditation,
Mm.
and very focused around that kind of thing,
Mm.
which exists and which has its own market. Again, it has a whole lot of things. So somebody who, I mean, to give you an example, somebody who came and joined my program said that, my choice was between going for a Sadhguru program and yours. And I chose yours. And we'll come to why later. So there is that kind of thing that happens, which is again structured around some practice and some spiritual aspects and so on and so forth. And then you have what ISABS runs as labs,
Mm.
which are very intense and makes a big difference to many of the people who've gone through it. Again, individuals, great. So the ISABS lab and a lot of what I do, there may be similarities in some of the things that we do. And then there are bits and pieces that people do about singular spaces around self-discovery. Okay, so somebody might do a program around psychometry. Somebody may do a program around the shadow, discovering your shadow. So there are various aspects that people do. The groups that do you want me to talk about what's different about what we do, or you want to ask that question?
No, so now, yeah, we can get into the conversation of, you told us a bit about reflections already. So tell us now about what was your approach and what were few of those design elements that were very unique or you felt, was something you really wanted to bring to it.
Yeah. So the reason I started doing reflections is because from my coaching work, I discovered that the CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, the kind of people that I was working with, they were actually a little lonely. And they are human beings, right? They have challenges, issues. Sometimes they struggle with their own existential questions. And they wonder, after 20 years of leading an organization, now what? Where do I want to go? Who to talk to about it? There's nobody, because you can't go back into an organization and talk about it. People start, oh my God, he's leading, and so on and so forth. All kinds of things happen. So they needed something. I mean, there are large organizations where there are entrepreneurs associations, etc., but not everybody wants to get in there and fit in there. And I found that this was a need that was there. Many of them had different kinds of questions, depending on where they were in their lives. And I thought creating a space for them where they could just, detach from everything else and focus on themselves, simply me time, and think about and reflect on the things that are important to them and reconnect with why they do what they do, or what is it that they should do with their lives. Reconnect with themselves. Because as leaders, there are so many masks that you have to wear at different points of time. Sometimes you lose sense of who you are. Okay, so reconnect with themselves. I thought I wanted to create something for them and create it in this fashion. So it was not just one part or the other. And of course, allowing them to link it back with their lives. I think that was a very important thing that I thought I wanted to do, that, there has to be some practical use of this beyond feeling good for the 2 days that you feel when you're there, or 3 days, 4 days after. It has to last. It has to be something that builds up as a practice, community, whatever, and goes on from there. So that's really why I created this, because I was at one point of time coaching a lot of people together. I don't coach that many people together anymore because it's a little difficult to manage. And I found that they had this need, very common. So the first program was created with people I coach.
Right.
Okay. And so that was it. That's the reason why I started. And so therefore from there I knew one thing, that it was very important for these folks to find a safe space, that a place where they could actually allow themselves to be who they were, and talk about it. And it's if you like, the Vegas of self-discovery. So what happens at Vegas stays at Vegas. So that kind of thing had to be created. Yeah. So a lot of planning, a lot of work went into ensuring that was done. Starting with the fact that it was always a group of strangers. Made sure that in the beginning, I would never take two people from the same organization. I try and see that people didn't know each other. And once the cohort was coming together, there would be no group email sent up. So, there's no question of anybody Googling and trying to find out who's there. Because all of that, you are creating your own tensions and making it difficult for yourself. Because you might have some, oh, can I do this? Not required. The whole process of discovery at that stage from a fresh place was very important. So that's one of the other things that I did. Made sure that people remain strangers until they arrive there. Yeah. And would you like me to tell you about how we got? I mean, the process of getting people ready for it is a nearly 1 month process.
Nice. And that's
before
interesting
they
because, yeah,
arrive
you
into.
don't, correct, you don't get them to meet each other. But that was my, yeah, follow-up question is how do you get them in the zone of pulling out of the day-to-day and into your space?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the first place, it's difficult for me. The first batch was easy, but after that, it's difficult to find the people who are looking.
Mm.
And now there's a very we've arrived at this articulation where I say that okay, find your mojo,
Mm.
and that's something that people kind of understand. If you've lost your mojo, you know that you've lost your mojo, or you're sort of feeling disconnected from it. So I'm finding people like that, and then there will always be initial conversations with
Mm.
okay to figure out. I have actually told some people that this may not be the right thing for you to do, or you may not, because it's important that you get the right people on the bus,
Right.
because it's part of creating this gathering.
Mm. Mm.
You need people who are coming there, and because you put it out there and because people actually ask for it, or they get recommended by somebody,
Mm.
they are referred by somebody, typically people who've been in programs before, because they know and they say this person needs. Sometimes the person may not feel so. There's a conversation, and then we ascertain. That's where there is always a conversation. There is no blind signing and coming
Mm.
in. So that's step one. So there is a conversation that happens, and after that conversation, there are almost on a weekly basis there are contacts. And the contacts are around two things. One is the stuff that I ask people to do. So there is a psychometric. There is which people they will do. I ask them to read about it, and then they send a link and they fill that psychometric. And they get the report 2 days before. I don't hand over the report too much in advance, because again, you don't want people to be, think it to death. You want them to arrive with those questions at the right time and be ready at the time. So there's psychometric. Then I ask them to think about what issues they are, what is it that they really are looking for, and what issues are they really, what are those questions that they're coming with,
Mm.
and ask them to distill it down to one or two things. And people do that. Ask them what is it that they would be comfortable with in the group, and what is it just because there's personal space with me as well that people have. So so we get all of, so these are things that keep happening. And then there is the whole logistics of getting to that place. They know what it is, but I make the arrangements and ask people to make arrangements to arrive in batches at the airport. Okay, from where I arrange for a taxi pickup, which is the first time that they actually meet in a cab, and they find that they have food packets with their names on it, which is actually, which has the kind of food that somebody's. Nowadays we have a lot of people who are allergic to gluten and so on, and so somebody's a vegetarian, somebody wants
That's such
Jain
a
food.
nice touch.
Yeah. So all of that is done, taken care of, and people get that. So they're already beginning to feel comfortable, and they feel a sense of being welcome right at that. And there is some nice energy going, and there is a conversation that happens there. You've already given people something to start a conversation, which is different from, I'm here and I lead this, which is where people would go.
Right.
So something else, and then they're driving in the hills. It starts changing. So by the time they arrive there, they've got to know each other, whoever was in that car, and then the other cars arrive, and then they see each other. And the rooms are allotted by lottery.
Okay.
Okay, because somebody, I want the river facing, whoever picks up whatever goes. So again, you see, all of this is about setting the norms. You're beginning to, you've set an expectation that your special needs will be taken. You don't need to worry about all of this. And earlier we've also asked people that give us a number of a person who needs to be called in case there's an emergency, and that you won't get connectivity here. We then call that person and give that person a special number.
Okay.
If you need something, call us at this number. So that just trying to ensure digital detox, because that's a very important part of reconnecting back with yourself. we do all that, and usually people arrive by an evening, and then the way the process after that is structured, we I mean, theoretically, you might call it that self-organized criticality. The best way to think about it is that whole, sand, that you keep pouring sand. And at one point of time, that sand hill breaks because it was that last two grains which were just enough to break it. So the whole idea is of various things that one does is about pouring sand. And the breaking of it is I mean, it's symbolic of epiphanies that people have. And they may have their epiphanies at different times. And as they find that, then suddenly there is, it's like freedom. So they experience that. By and large, in the program, I try and ensure that every single participant feels something by the end of it. In terms of design, I never thought of it that way until I learned it from you to say it like that. But it is hand, head, heart. The design is like that. Okay, so we begin again the whole idea of creating safe spaces. So we begin with head because that's what this group is most comfortable with. We'll talk about things which is requires some intellect, and we're doing this, and we're getting into discussing the major issues, but it's about somebody else or something else. It's a movie. We're discussing that, and then I begin to draw from that into a little closer to a personal space, a little closer. Then we do things with our hands. There is a whole afternoon spent. There are activities that people do, and they connect, and that's when they can, you're really mucking around, go back to your little childhood. All of that makes a huge difference in that thing that is building up around people as we go deeper and deeper from just discussing some movie to discussing what this psychometric is about, to discussing what is your psychometric saying about you, to discussing values in general, to your values, and then looking at the shadow and your shadow, which is like the deepest point of looking at yourself. It's a process, gradual process, and people help themselves. And in terms of design, I'll usually end up saying very little because it's not about theory, and then leave it open. So often I have said something and we are all sitting quietly. Nobody's saying anything. And then somebody becomes uncomfortable and says, okay, so are you saying this? I may choose to still remain quiet. And somebody, no, I don't think that's what he's saying. But if they, and then, so things like this happen. And the whole idea is to get people to get to those spaces where you put in an idea, put in a thought, and people are discovering the answer through looking at themselves. And yeah, so it's by the end of it, we obviously bring it together in a particular way.
Right.
And some people work on purpose, some people work on other things, and they come back. And what happens at the end of it is that they've found a community. These communities are continuing, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, so there is an alumni now. That alumni has progressed to beyond just discussing any serious issues to now they just have parties together. We just had one a few days ago. So where they're doing it themselves, they've found friends. They've found spaces. And the interesting thing in parties that they have is how they come and immediately let their hair down. So something as well. Yeah, sorry. Now your question.
No, and also I mean, in a way, that's also not the end, right? And that's the whole beauty of it. You started by saying what you're noticing, that this whole other gatherings where the religious fervor somehow is there, but it dissipates. So what have you noticed in that, right? In terms of the continuous sort of impact of this program and how people, and what has helped that?
Yeah. So some people have found clear answers about what to do. And sometimes, I mean, the most visible ones are the ones who've made changes in direction. Okay. I mean, so going from something and going on to academics and PhD, for example, that's like somebody's changed, somebody quit a multi-crore job to paying job to do something on their own and so on and so forth. So those are the very visible ones. Somebody decided to continue with what they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
So that's also
right.
somebody decided to pick up some, air their hobbies
Mm,
and
right.
work on that was because that's the space that gives them. And there's somebody calls himself a sous chef now. Somebody has constructed a little workshop in their garage where they sit. Somebody went back to dancing.
Mm,
So things, all various things, there are little things that they do and they continue. Some people have continued for longer than others.
mm,
The thing is, everybody keeps in touch.
right.
For me, that is a, you know,
Mm.
if you like, evaluation criteria that they keep in touch. They talk about it. They often want to meet to go back and revisit what is happening. Is that there is a need that is often expressed of doing that kind of thing. Somebody started a little diary where they note things down about what they're grateful for. There are all kinds of things that people do. Most of them have continued doing something or the other. Some people, for them, it's gone. But it's left an impression on them in a way that actually almost everybody who's attended the program stays in touch.
So if you have to think about it, if you have to sum up the value this community is offering them, what would you sum it up in one word or two words?
I think it's about being their authentic self. I think that is the community, that's the value this community is offering. Just a space that allows them to be their authentic self. So they can come with their weaknesses, they can come with their questions, they can have. They're okay. I mean, nobody is judging anybody.
But have
I
you
think
got
that
angry emails from relatives and friends that, oh my God, this person is completely changed now?
I don't know what you've done with him, but that kind of thing, but in a good way. Maybe they've been polite.
Yeah, see, that's what you should get actually feedback from family and friends more than the person.
I know. So people have sent other family members to the program.
Yeah. Yeah, I fixed myself. Now it's your turn. And tell us about, what you go through, right? I mean, of course, this is, your thing. It fulfills your mojo. But so how are you in this whole process of running the program? And
I think sometimes I've landed up, there was a time when I went through a lot of ill health, prolonged period. And the thing with prolonged illnesses is that it puts you
mm,
not in the best of spaces.
mm,
And I went ahead and plunged into it and ran a reflections during that time. Okay, I don't know what happened, but by the end of reflections, I was in a different space. I mended much faster after that. So obviously that there is some great energy, there is a great reaffirmation to me of the fact that I can actually make a difference in people's lives, because that's what my kick is, and that it impacts them beautifully, which is like, oxygen, blood, and whatever else you call it for me. So it works. During those days when I'm running the program, I am completely present there. The level of focus that I have for those 3 or 4 days, sometimes I sit back and I said, but I didn't get distracted. I'm completely there. You know how that feeling is. To be completely there in the moment, because my awareness has to be very high. I have to feel what is happening there, with whom, and those micro changes that happen. You have to sense it and be able to pick it up and do and see how there is that energy is flowing, and so how to direct it, where to take it. So I'm completely there, and I feel like I'm at the top of my game when I'm doing that. And it's it's a great feeling. When it is over, I'm completely exhausted. And it takes me some time. So earlier, for a long time, I used to take people's pain personally, which is not the best thing to do if you want to be in this space. And I would carry that with me. I would want to fix it and this, and it would affect. And I found that it was depleting my energy. So my conversations with other people, seeking ideas, etc. I've done a lot of work on it. I'm a lot better at it. I don't let it affect me. I don't let the negatives, because there's a lot of, if you're doing work on shadow and things like that, what you will get very often, you should be ready for what you get. And you have to help a person resolve it, go through it. So it takes some doing. Sometimes that's energy depleting. I figured my way of managing that.
So what has helped you in getting ready for the program? So how do you fuel up your energy, and what helps you stay focused? What do you do to get ready?
I mean, one is the cohort who's there, and those initial conversations, etc. And I begin to get excited with all of them. Then I can imagine what is going to happen over that period of time and how this whole thing is going to flow. And I can imagine, even though there is a process and a structure, and you know that I keep shifting things around quite a lot, depending on what is happening where. So, but it's all within that space. It is, even though there's that, in each one, there is something, some magic happening. Once the magic was caused by the forest fire. And the person who runs this space, he was standing there like a stone, looking at the fire. And when I'm running the program, I'll come and ask him, so what's up? He'd say, if it crosses that line, then a spark could hit the tents. Then we are in big trouble, because you can see the fire. It's one of those years where that Uttarakhand fire was really bad. It was coming down like this. And everybody was worried. And it's a program where it was a little, that I was pouring sand, but it was not breaking. Yeah, it wasn't breaking for anybody. It was getting, they begun to get that hard look, suddenly going back into corporate. And then it rained. There was a storm, and it rained, meaning that it poured buckets. Some of the tent, the tops came off. And somebody's bed got wet, half, and so on. And it rained for 3 hours. And next to the Ganga and the river, you could see it. Something happened. In that rain, people got with somebody's lending a jacket, somebody's doing this. The whole energy shifted. Next morning was something else.
Oh, wow.
So things like this happen. I've given you one story of what happened. So each one is an adventure. I mean, I love adventure. So each one is an adventure. That's what I anticipate when I'm thinking about it, and it really fires me up. And all of the preparation, looking at things, getting it ready, feeling it all fall in place, that's magic.
Lovely. So our last closing question is, it's like a summary question in a way, that what according to you therefore creates magic in these kind of gatherings of personal discovery?
I mean, you've got to have first of all, your process and recipe. That, I think, no matter what you say, that is it. You can, like I said, you change things in the middle, but you need to have thought through how to make this work. And what will you do if something happens? So all of that is very, very important. That's one. Two, who's there and with what kind of intention are they there? What have you done to get them to that space before they've arrived? A lot of that happens. So if people arrive with some curiosity, some skepticism, but still exploring and so on, spaces like this, perfect. So you want to make sure you don't want somebody there who doesn't want to. Not for programs like this. That's why you have to say. So that grouping, that thing is very important. That who's there. and with what intention are they having? What have you done to get them ready to get into that space? And then, your own process and your own theory about what works for you and how you make it. So like I've said, my whole thing is to go from the external to deeply internal slowly and allow people, just take time. Yeah, never be in a hurry. Never be in a hurry. There's nothing. There is no curriculum to be completed. Just slow time down and make sure that there are no other distractions. People do not have the option of sitting down to write a presentation or make 3 phone calls to their lawyers or this or that, all of that. So making sure that people are completely present there, giving them a great experience. I don't believe in this program is not run with any kind of physical hardship. Make sure people have great food, their beds are comfortable, if it's hot, there is an air conditioner, whatever is required. So all of that is taken care of. So creature comforts are taken care of. It's my way of doing. There are other places, other designs which are different. Here, I don't want them to go through all of this. I want them to wake up every morning. They wake up every morning to a session of, meditation and exercise. You want to come, you come. And I have fun everybody comes. Okay. No, even though they have to wake up. The thing is, when you're there, even if you've gone to sleep at 11:30, 12 o'clock, by 6:30, 7, you're up. The birds chirping, this happening, all of that. So that some things are voluntary, and you see people doing it, and they come. Take care of them well. Make them feel that because they're coming there as individuals, the fact that their individuality has been taken into account from the beginning is very important, which is why that little food packet makes a big difference. And at lunch or dinner, there is always that, hey, here is the Jain food, or here it is. That's that. It changes the way they receive things.
Yeah.
So all of that, I think, one has to do to make sure that this thing works.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, right? I mean, just so that people also feel seen and heard for really who they are, and they're welcome into that space. And even though the program really actually is challenging that in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but to hold them with care, right, through
Yeah.
that process as much.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what also I love about, whenever you talk about it, is that.
Yeah. Unlike other programs, in this program, I do not share an agenda with people. Okay. I mean, they come, they see an agenda which says at this time we will meet, doing this, that. That's about it. The invitation is always to come completely open and take what is there. So each session is a discovery process for everybody, because the thing is about discovery.
Correct.
Okay, so no setting up, which is different from what you would do in other programs where you're saying what the objective is, etc. All that is given earlier. Why you're coming here, what's the purpose? But this is what will happen on day 1, day 2, day 3. No, you will arrive at this time, you will leave at that. You'll wake up at this time, you'll get lunch at that kind of things, people. You'll go for a ride at this time. All of that is good. Nothing else.
And that's the also interesting part, right? Because in a way, and that's what I loved about all your programs and your experiences, because there are these, I don't know how to call it, these balance of experiences, right? So there is the scare, but there will be this nudge and push to question and challenge, right? And the other thing you said now, this clarity of process and design. So you know exactly what can be done at what point, but there is that flexibility and openness to bring in what's needed, right? And I find these things very, very fascinating about the work we do.
Yeah.
So I hear there's another reflections coming up this year soon, and I wish you all the best. And
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope this video also helps tell everyone the story of this wonderful program.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you so
Do
much.
come. I mean, at the least, you will go back having connected back with yourself and having made some friends for life. That much is there.
So everyone, this is our story on Gathering Genie. This time, if you have a story of a gathering in personal, professional, or community spaces, please do reach out to me. I'd love to capture your story as well. So I'm going to ring the bells again so we can just soak in all that lovely thinking, inspiration, and heart talk we just had. Okay, thank you.